thing's for sure. These three governors are right about money. The current projection is that by June, the three remaining presidential candidates, combined with the ones who dropped out, will have exceeded $1 billion in expenditures. $1 billion. And remember, they're raising that in increments of a maximum of $2,300 or less to exceed $1 billion. It's amazing. So what the solution is, we don't know. I want to ask you about the solution, though, to the presidential primary process. Let's grant, in honor of Governor Sununu and in honor of what Governor Wilder said about the good people in New Hampshire and Iowa, let's concede, even though we might not want to, that New Hampshire and Iowa will continue to go first. But the other 48 states, what's wrong with organizing them in regional primaries to be held one region, a state, say beginning in April, May, June, July, and have the conventions in August? What would you say to that proposal?
I think if you go to the regional distribution of it, you are going to find pandering campaigns. I have no problem if you want to suggest either 4 dates or 8 dates, or maybe every 2 weeks after New Hampshire, starting every 2 weeks, and let states elect to join any one of those 8 dates. And that way I think you'll have a campaign at each time cycle that has sufficient diversity that it's making the candidates run as a candidate of the country rather than a candidate of the region. But I think my preference would be to allocate 4 or 8 time cycles and let the states choose which one they want to go into.
That's a very interesting idea, to keep the campaigns national, but still organize them around 4 or 8 dates. Governor Weicker, Governor Wilder, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, again, I just get back to what I pointed out, that you're dealing with a financial problem at all. I think the money's going to be just as much, in other words, under that kind of a system as it is under the present system. My problem is the money spent, not really the time.
I think money is still going to be playing a big part of it. The problem is when you get a big state like Florida and another big state like Michigan, pretty much excluded, and some of us have already tried to front row, particularly in Virginia. To be excluded is just tremendously awkward. I think the big problem is when you have 97 or 98.2% of the people excluded from those 2 states, the first 2 states, it causes the other people in the country to say, what's wrong with us? What have we done wrong? Why doesn't someone pay attention to us? And when you consider a small regional state like South Carolina, getting the kinds of attention it did, when you consider that Virginia, well, we're right next to the nation's capital. We started the whole country. When we are excluded to the extent that we are, it makes us recognize that something is wrong. I can confess to go about fixing it, I confess I don't know. But it's not right for certain areas of the country to be constantly quoted to a degree that the residents there expect it, as I told you, and will continue to expect it. And others are surprised when they just get a handshake or a chance to even be in the same room with the presidential candidate. It doesn't make sense, particularly now. The other thing, Larry, you got to continue to understand, as you've written in your book.
What's the name of that book?
A more perfect, a more perfect Constitution. The few people who really pay attention to what's going on, and how few people participate. That's why I think what's happening in this country today, this year, vast numbers of people who are coming out, who are participating, contributing through the internet in terms of finances, young people coming to participate for the first time. We all thought when the 18-year-old vote was granted, everybody was going to be coming. They didn't come. And yet they're coming. So it means we can't give up on the need for change. We've got to find out the right vehicle for that change. But it doesn't make sense to have the front loading continue to be what it is. And I
Governor Water, I appreciate you proving how well read you are. Your choice of books is perfect. Let me ask you three about primaries versus caucuses. You all come from primary states, but you've also observed closely Iowa, Nevada, some of the other caucus states. This year, we've heard, I think for the first time, intense criticism of the caucus states because to participate in the caucus, you have to be in a physical location at a particular hour. If you're serving in Iraq, you can't vote. There's no such thing as an absentee vote. If you're working in a hospital, you can't vote. If you're elderly and can't go out at night, you can't vote. You don't have a vote in the process. Do you believe that we should mandate that the states have primaries, all 50 states have primaries, or is it better to have this kind of diversity? Well, somebody in the audience said primaries, but let's see what our panels are.
I really don't like the idea of mandating anything to the states when it comes to the state election process. If they want to, I don't like caucuses. I think caucuses can be jobbed. I think people can work the caucus. I think there's an art to caucusing. I've seen, we don't have it in New Hampshire, but I've traveled enough around the country and talked to friends who are participants in the process, and they explain all the arcane games of caucusing. But having said that, I think that's up to the state. If Iowa wants to continue with caucuses, let them continue with caucuses. If Nevada wants to continue with caucuses, that's up to them. I don't think the Congress of the United States has any business telling them, and I don't think the parties have any business telling them. Now, the parties may decide they do have business telling them, but I think we're going to have a lot of unhappy states